Alright, hello. Okay, alright, hello. How's everybody doing tonight? Hi! Welcome! Hi, Professor. Hi, Hero. Welcome. Hope you guys had a great Monday. Book! Yes, I have a book. I made it all by myself. But yeah, so, boy, I was expecting to read tonight, but I also wasn't, because as most of you know with the poll that I put up, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of feel like perlering today, but Maridi, book Nami. But yeah, so, I was thinking of perler beating tonight, but you all voted. You guys actually wanted to hear me read tonight, so thank you. First of all, I wanted to thank you, especially to those who actually voted for reading tonight. But yeah, so for those of you who weren't here for the first go around, because this actually is me starting over this story here. So a little backstory on that. So you'll recognize the girl in that cover image there. That's who I was previously as a VTuber. Hi. That's me in another reality, Manami. So yeah, long story short, I made my own Kingdom Hearts universe where I'm the Keyblade wielder protagonist, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Keyblade Manami return. That's Monotony. Oh my god, Kuma, I love you. I love you. Oh my god. So, the last time I read this as her, there were certain scenes that were cut because they provided the backstory of her best friend, who you can see next to her, Kai. So with this go around, I am not Keyblade wielder Manami, so I will be reading all perspectives of this story. Juicebox! Juicebox here is the co-writer of this story and is the creator of Kai. So everyone welcome him with the warmest of wishes. Oh no, now everyone knows. You said it in my Discord like forever ago. Don't you even, silly. We have to be proud of our work. This is over a decade in the making, man. Okay. All right. Without further ado then, I guess it's time to just get started. So yeah, I'm gonna read, I'm gonna put on some nice copyrighted music, and we're gonna have fun. So here we go. Manami opened her eyes and found herself in a strange place. How did she even get here? It was slowly coming back to her. She was with her best friend, but for whatever reason now she couldn't remember his name or what he looked like. The world had suddenly turned upside down, literally. She began to fall. But instead of falling down to the ground, she fell upwards towards the sky. She now found herself standing within the clouds, with a shining bright sun in the distance. Manami tried to make sense of how she got here, and how she would get down, but then an unfamiliar voice spoke again. So much to do, so little time. Manami looked around, wondering where the voice came from. She seemed to be the only one here. Also, we can't hear the music, can we? There we go. Take your time. Don't be afraid. I'm not. The door is still shut. Huh? Manami looked around again. What door? Step forward. Can you do it? Manami looked down to where her feet would be, but she couldn't see them past the clouds. She hesitantly lifted a foot and extended it out. The moment her foot touched the ground, the clouds around her dissipated, revealing a mirror-like floor that reflected the sky around her. Whoa! Now that she knew she was on some kind of surface, Manami slowly took a few more steps forward, but then stopped once more. Where could she even go? There was nothing, or no one here. She suddenly felt rumbles under her feet, making her stumble. She looked over to see something appear nearby, looking as though it rose from under the reflective surface. Power sleeps within you. Manami felt rumbles again, and looked the opposite way to see a similar shape rise. If you give it form, and a third shape rose in front of her, it will give you strength. Manami noticed that these things around her were like pedestals, and different weapons floated above each of them. A sword, a shield, and a staff. She slowly approached each pedestal to inspect the weapons, as well as read the plaques on the pedestals. The power of the warrior, invincible courage, a sword of terrible destruction. The power of the guardian, kindness to aid friends, a shield to repel all. The power of the mystic, inner strength, a staff of wonder and ruin. Choose wisely. Manami once again looked around to find the source of the voice, but to no avail. It seemed that the only way things would progress was to choose a weapon. She looked at each weapon once more, but quickly decided to approach the sword and grab it by the hilt. After all, the sword was what she always chose in the video game RPGs she played. Your path has been set. Manami watched as the pedestal sunk back under the surface, but noticed something dark nearby. It looked like a shadow, but who would it belong to if she was the only one here? There will be times where you have to fight. Huh? Manami gasped when she noticed the shadow rise and take form. It almost looked like an overgrown insect with long antennas and buggy yellow eyes, except that they were glowing. She took a step back when she noticed the creature slowly start to approach her. Keep your light burning strong. The monster suddenly lunged at her, and Manami instinctively swung the sword in her hand in an attempt to block it. While she failed to block, she successfully slashed it, and it dissipated. But Manami quickly turned to see another shadow emerging behind her. Gah! She quickly jumped back and slashed at it, effectively destroying it. She looked all around, keeping her battle position, until she noticed a door appear behind her. The day you will open the door is both far off and very near. Manami slowly approached the door, reaching with her free hand to touch it. You mean this door? But before she could touch it, the door cracked open on its own, revealing a bright light that was so intense that she had to close her eyes. When she opened them, she was no longer in the middle of the sky. This place was now familiar. She recognized it. She recognized the cityscape of her hometown, as well as the pier where she and her best friend, whose name she still couldn't fully remember right now, would often hang out. Except she was far beyond the pier, standing atop the ocean water. How was this possible? Though when she looked out the opposite way from the pier, she could see the sun about to touch the horizon. It was about to set. The closer you get to light, the greater your shadow becomes. Suddenly, as the sun finally dipped under the horizon, the ocean turned a murky dark black. Something began to emerge from the water, and Manami got her sword ready. She expected one of those little insect-like shadows again, but was surprised to see the monster getting bigger and bigger, until it stood over 20 feet taller than she was. Don't be afraid. Manami somehow found comfort in these words, and went to charge at the giant monster. She slashed at its legs, and even managed to climb up its arms and attack its face. You hold the mightiest weapon of all. Ha! Manami slashed again into the monster's face, before it suddenly shook her off, grabbing her and slamming her down to the ground. Under her, she could feel the dark ocean water. It was shiveringly cold, and she could feel herself slowly submerging. She struggled to break free of the monster's grip, but to no avail. The water covered her mouth and nose, and she struggled for air, then struggled for consciousness. As she blacked out, she heard the voice speak one more time. Don't forget, you are the one who will open the door. Gah! Manami shot straight up, panting heavily like she had just been saved from drowning at the last possible moment. At her bedside, her cell phone was ringing, vibrating harshly on the wooden surface that was her nightstand. With one hand, Manami went to reach for her phone, while reaching with the other to hold her chest as she caught her breath. Hello? Manami! She recognized the voice immediately. It was her best friend. His name rung crystal clear in her mind. Kai. Where are you? He asked worriedly. I thought you'd be at the carnival today. Is everything okay? Was there an emergency? You're not sick, are you? At that moment, Manami looked to the digital clock on her nightstand to see that she was waking up almost an hour and a half after she was supposed to. I'm actually almost there, Manami lied, jumping up from bed and quickly reaching up for the first clothes she could find on the floor and changing into them. On the other end of the line, she could hear Kai take a sigh of relief. He was standing just outside the carnival. All right, good, he said, sounding relieved. For a second, I thought you were under the weather. I don't think I'd be able to enjoy the summer carnival without you around. We were both looking forward to it after all, especially since they got some new stuff we got to check out. Thank you, Ichigo, for the head pat. Manami had taken that time of Kai talking to brush her teeth. She went to run towards the front door, grabbing her wallet and phone charger that she had left for herself on the side table. Manami bolted out the door and dashed down the road. She lived in a city. I lost my place. She lived in a city, but it was right on the coast. This city was named Kishinawa. While running down to the pier, where they held the annual summer carnival, she had ran parallel to the shoreline. Manami was a 14-year-old girl with brown hair that grew down to not even an inch past her shoulders, and she also had matching brown eyes. She primarily enjoyed playing video games and hanging out with her best friend Kai. She was a fairly laid-back person, but was always one to speak her mind when the necessary times arose. "Don't worry about me, Kai. I'm feeling great," she assured her best friend. Despite her saying this, Kai could hear her audibly panting from the other side of the line. "Well, if you say so," he hummed. "You are breathing a little heavy there." "Well, I made sure to pay for admission for 2, so I already got you covered." "Aw, Kai, thank you! Whoa, honk!" Manami had gone across the road without looking, and was only a few inches from getting hit by a car. She waved with her free hand while wearing a sheepish grin, though she didn't really have time to stop and apologize, and kept running. Wow! Also, can you guys hear the music okay? It's weird. The soft songs are, like, super quiet, and then the super loud ones are super loud, so I'm doing my best here. There's music? Yes, there is music. Let me turn up some gain here. Boop. Can you guys hear it now? Wow! Manami was inches away from being an Isekai Pro Tag instead of a Kingdom Hearts Pro Tag. Here, I could turn it up a little more. There we go. Alright. "Breathing heavy," Manami said to Kai. "Your service choppy? I'm fine!" She turned a corner, and she could see the carnival in the distance. She ran for the entrance, where she could see Kai up ahead. "Really?" Kai asked. "Is it something on my end?" "Strange. Well, either way, I'm not going anywhere. Hopefully I'm in some place you can see me." "Yep, I can see you," Manami thought to herself, as she ran to approach him from behind. She skidded to a stop right next to him. "I'm here!" Kai turned his head to see his best friend, sweaty and absolutely panting. He wasn't going to say anything, but then he saw her bedhead. She forgot to brush her hair. Kai sighed, going to hang up his phone. "You overslept, didn't you?" "What?" "No!" Manami put her hands on her hips. "What makes you say that?" "I don't mean to alarm you, but..." Kai pointed to his hair, signaling that she needed to look at her own. Manami quickly pulled out her cell phone to turn on the front-facing camera and look at herself. It was incredibly obvious that she didn't brush her hair. Manami put the phone in her back pocket, wearing a straight face. "It appears that I didn't brush my hair during the several hours I was definitely awake." Kai smiled nervously. "Well, good thing I have a brush in my bag for such an occasion. But let's get inside first." The two friends approached a ticket taker and handed them their tickets. After getting a weird look from the ticket taker and walking inside, Kai went through his bag to find the hairbrush and handed it to Manami. "Thanks." Manami gave him a sheepish grin and went to brush her hair. Kai and Manami had met in preschool and had been best friends since. Kai had jet black hair and eyes that were a similar brown to Manami's. Standing 2 inches shorter than Manami, Kai was much more soft-spoken, timid, and gentle person than she was. His strengths were on the inside, and with his smartness and kind nature. On the outside, he appeared frail and sometimes weak in comparison to Manami, and he was often bullied because of it. Thankfully, he had Manami, who would always fend off any threats. Manami looked around, seeing the hustle and bustle of the festivities. That is loud music now, isn't it? Wow! I'm just gonna have to DJ music the whole night, aren't I? Manami's name is actually Manami. Could you guys hear me, or should I start that part over? Why is my life so hard? I physically have nowhere where I can, like, look at the levels of this. Yeah, I'm gonna just do that. That's fine. We heard you? Cool. Thanks! Thanks for keeping up with me, guys. Okay. Ba-ba-doo-ba-doo-boop-boop. This is a new experience for me, too. You can spell Manami. Oh, I got really small there for a second. Guess you forgot to lock. There we go. Alright, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start this song over at the very least. Manami looked around, seeing the hustle and bustle of the festivities. It definitely looked like there were more stands at this year's carnival, which meant only one thing: more stuff to do. After Manami finished brushing her hair and handed the brush back to Kai, they walked down the first line of stands, playing games along the way. They stopped at a stand that had a ring toss, but Manami noticed that Kai was looking at the prizes. In particular, he was looking at a necklace. It was a bright green crystal, shaped like a crescent moon. Next to it was a matching crystal necklace, but this one was blue, in the shape of a star. You kids want to toss some rings? The attendant at the stand asked, gesturing to the differently colored bottles. The outer bottles were green, then the inner bottles were yellow. In the center, there was a single red bottle. Sure, Manami answered, and the attendant handed her some tossing rings. Which one do I gotta land for a necklace? She asked, pointing specifically to the necklace Kai was looking at. Kai looked between her and the necklace. Did she want the same necklace that he wanted? He would have let her have it, of course, but he couldn't help but feel a little bad because he wanted it too. The yellow bottles or the center red bottle, the stand attendant replied to Manami. Pretty tough to land them. I got this, Manami said confidently, going to toss her first ring. It bounced immediately off the rim of a yellow bottle and fell to the side. Okay, for real this time! She threw another ring and missed. She ended up tossing all of her rings, missing each and every one, terribly. Sorry, miss. Kai stepped forward to pat Manami on the shoulder. It's okay, Manami. Maybe I can try. I mean, it can't hurt, right? He then looked to the stand attendant and cleared his throat. Can I have a go? Sure thing, kid. Have all the tries you like. The attendant said, handing Kai several rings. Kai took a moment to mentally prepare himself as he looked over the bottles. He then went to throw his first ring and missed. He tried throwing several more and missed each and every one. Kai started getting embarrassed and flustered, only thinking about Manami witnessing him fail over and over, despite that he also watched her fail at throwing the rings. He let out a small whine before closing his eyes and throwing the last ring in his hand, and cling! He opened his eyes to see that the ring was not only on a bottle, but it was on the only red bottle in the very center. Kai stared at the ring, his eyes growing wide. I did it? He jumped when he heard Manami squeal, and was suddenly taken by the shoulders. You didn't just do it! You got the hardest one! Manami cried, shaking his shoulders and bouncing in excitement. The stand attendant chuckled and turned towards the jewelry. Winning the prize for the lady, he said, giving Kai a small smirk. What do you mean? Kai smiled, his cheeks turning a small shade of pink. I mean, if she wants it, I have no problem with it, really. Manami shot a glance to Kai, her brow raised. She wanted to win the necklace because he wanted it, not her. Well, since you got the center ring, I'll hook you both up with a prize. How's that? Really? Manami gasped as the attendant grabbed up both the moon and star necklaces and went to dangle them in front of the kids. Manami reached first and, to Kai's surprise, took the blue star necklace. She went to put it on, then noticed Kai was looking at her. Something wrong? She asked, suppressing a grin that would given away her intention of letting him have the necklace that he wanted all along. No, of course not, Kai quickly assured her. I'll be taking this one. Thanks. Kai took the moon necklace and put it around his neck. He looked down at the sparkling green crystal, looking quite pleased with himself. Manami couldn't help but smile at his expression, and they thanked the attendant as they walked away. They didn't walk far before Manami caught a whiff of barbecue. You hungry? She asked. I am. Yeah, I can eat. That barbecue does smell good, Kai replied with a grin. Maybe, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to find a churro cannoli stand. Those things are rare. Manami and Kai had gotten their food and went to sit at their favorite spot, the pier. They would often sit here together and watch the sunset, usually while eating ice cream or popsicles. Today, they ate kebabs, and to Kai's enjoyment, there was a stand that sold churro cannolis too. After eating their kebabs, Kai was eating his sweet treat, while Manami was holding her star necklace up as the sun was starting to set. I love the way this crystal sparkles when you hold it up to the light, Manami said, grinning as she admired the beauty of the shining crystal. Kai gave a nod, only able to hum in agreement since his mouth was full. He swallowed as quickly as he could so that he could respond. I know! Aren't they great? He grinned at her. These kind of accessories are simple, but they're striking and go with everything. Plus the fact that ours kind of matches a nice bonus. Manami scoffed. We would be best friends for almost a decade, and just now get matching necklaces. Yeah, I know, Kai laughed. A lot of other people I knew have come and went over the years, but you're the only one who never drifted from me. Kai took another bite of his churro cannoli, and then noticed that Manami had gone quiet. He looked over to see her looking out to the sunset, looking lost in thought. Something wrong, Manami? He asked, after swallowing his bite. No, Manami forced a smile to him. It's just... She seemed to be having trouble finding her words, and looked back out to the sunset again. Every year, I always have a little bit of dread because the carnival is always on the last day of summer, she said. We always have to go back to school the next day. But, I mean, remember how nervous we were when we were leaving elementary school and getting ready to go to junior high? Now we're starting high school tomorrow. Oh yeah, Kai nodded. I won't lie, I'm nervous too. There was a pause before he spoke again. But hey, it can't be that different, right? He asked. Besides, we're still going to the same school together. That's not so bad, right? Manami thought about that for a moment. Yeah, you're right, she smiled, feeling a little better. She then looked down to the crystal star in her palm. Let's make a promise, she looked up at him, that we'll always be friends, that even when we grow up, we won't grow apart. Manami smiled as she held up her necklace to the sunlight once again. These necklaces will be the symbol of that promise. Really? Kai asked, going to hold up his moon necklace next to hers, so that he can also see it glisten in the sunlight. He smiled, feeling his eyes water a little. I'd actually really like that. He looked over to her, still smiling. You're my best friend, Manami, and it would be an honor if I could stay yours, no matter where life takes us. Manami smiled from ear to ear after he said that, and she used the arm that she wasn't holding the necklace up to wrap around his neck and give him a tight hug, almost making him drop his cannoli. All right, Manami said. Then it's a promise. Best friends till the end. Kai nodded, also using his free arm to wrap around Manami's shoulders and hug her back. Best friends till the end, Manami. After watching the sunset, Manami and Kai returned to the festivities. Nearby, they could see a large tent displaying a bunch of trinkets and oddities. In front of it, there stood a tall boy with wavy blonde hair that covered one of his eyes. Just as Manami was looking at him, he turned his head and his gray eyes met her chocolate ones. He gave her a gentle smile, which made her cheeks burn for a reason she wasn't entirely sure about. The blonde boy approached the two of them. Hey now, from your necklace I can see that you're a lady with a very sophisticated taste. Perhaps you'd like to see our traveling antique shop, he gestured behind him. Treasures and knickknacks from distant lands that the world has never seen. You might find something you like. Before Manami or Kai could respond, a shorter boy with matching blonde hair and a strange green fusion of a headband and hat peeked out from behind. He looked just a bit nervous, as if he was trying to put a smiling act on. Just letting you know that the items behind the glass aren't for sale. Not yet, anyway, he said, smiling softly. They're for an auction we're holding later on, but you could go see them if you wish. The older blonde patted the shorter on the head. That's right. You best go see those marbles while they're on display now. If you have any questions, my name is Russell, and this is my brother Fletcher. Kai raised a brow suspiciously. I don't like this guy. He looks sleazy. Just then, an older woman with short strawberry blonde hair stepped out and stood next to everyone at the entrance. Oh, hello there, handsome, she greeted Kai. Maybe you and that friend of yours might be interested in taking a look at our antiques. You know, what we have is so elusive, we might as well be a traveling museum. I'm sure you can find something for that special friend of yours. She winked to Kai, who just stood there blushing intently. Unfortunately for him, he was never the type to turn down a pretty face. Well, when you put it that way, maybe we should give this place a little look-see? Manami gave him an unamused look. Kai noticed and nervously rubbed the back of his head. Who knows? We might, see something cool, he said, a little bashful. Manami rolled her eyes and stepped forward first to go inside and look over the items. Distant lands, huh? She asked in a whisper that only Kai could hear. I highly doubt that. Hey, won't hurt to look, Kai whispered back to her. You were just about to say how the first guy looked sleazy, Manami said, earning a nervous chuckle from him. They looked around and saw that most of the items seemed to be charms, jewelry, and accessories from cultures that looked very unfamiliar to them. If anything, they looked more like props from movies and TV shows, or things that cosplayers would buy. Excuse me, I have to reset the song. There we go. Looked like things that cosplayers would buy. It all looked like works of fiction, rather than anything from real-world countries. Huh. Kai looked down to look at what looked like an action figure. Are these, like, from old TV shows or something? Who the heck is All Might? Look at this headband, Manami pointed out. What's the weird swirly logo on the metal part? What are we even looking at? Kai asked her. Manami shrugged, and they went further back to see things that looked like armor and weapons behind glass. One of the weapons stood out from the rest. It looked like a giant key. At least, the blade was a stunning silver, with a key-shaped attachment at the tip. The handle and handguard were connected as one, a heart-shaped hilt, shimmering a bright purple. Well, that's different, Kai said, as he looked closer at it. Manami snickered while also looking at it. I'd hate to have that thing on my keyring. What a big door that must open. I'm starting to wonder if they made all the stuff themselves, Kai mumbled. I really doubt some ancient culture ran around whacking people with giant keys. Yeah, Manami agreed, shaking her head. Want to get out of here? Yeah, Kai nodded. Seriously, this stuff is a bunch of junk. Right then, he noticed a tan-skinned girl with long, dark brown hair and a tuft of pink hair at the front. She seemed to be upkeeping everything, but then she noticed Manami and Kai. Are you enjoying what you're seeing so far? She asked, smiling kindly. Kai smiled back in a dopey way as his face went red. Why, yes! All of these things are absolutely fascinating. You have quite the wonderful collection. Seriously? Manami groaned. He's such a sucker when it comes to women. In that moment, another girl stepped out, this one with darker skin, with her black hair tied in a tight bun at the back of her head. Thank you, Kuma. She also seemed to be wearing a large armored gauntlet on her left arm. Well, if this stuff is so interesting, then how about getting something? She asked. Actually, Manami interjected, we were just about to leave. This looks like it would suit you, the gauntlet girl said to Manami, pulling out a strange ball that was red on top and white on the bottom. When she offered it to Kai, she pressed the button in the middle, and it grew in size to fit completely in her palm. Kai was rendered once again flustered and bashful in the presence of another girl. While he was distracted, Manami felt the urge to look back at that weird key in the display case. Something about it seemed kind of compelling. She stepped up to the glass, getting close enough to read the information just beneath the display case. This key is said to have magic powers. Only those with strong hearts are worthy to wield it. Manami scoffed, shaking her head. This either had to be superstitious from an ancient culture that didn't have science, made up words meant to sell it to gullible people, or both. Whatever. Manami turned to look at the other weapons on display, but glanced back to notice that the giant key had disappeared. Huh? She looked around for a moment before realizing the key was now gripped firmly in her hand. Manami almost yelled out in surprise, but caught herself in time. None of the others had noticed this was happening yet. Okay, just play it cool, she thought. I'm just gonna put this back right here. Manami slowly and silently reached to set the key down next to the glass casing. Once she set it down, she quickly pulled her hand away from it, like it was infected. Whew. She turned away and went to wipe the sweat from her brow, only to realize the key was back in her hand. What the hell? She immediately saw the gauntlet girl look over, and Manami instinctively hid the key behind her back. The gauntlet girl raised a brow suspiciously, but didn't seem to notice the key behind her back. But she did notice that the display case was empty. What the? Hey! It's gone! Huh? Kai blinked, stepping out of his infatuation with the other girls. What's gone? Wait, wasn't there something in there just a second ago? Manami began to sweat. But that's not possible, the girl with the pink tuft of hair cried. Where could it have gone? The two girls went to walk over to Manami, who was shrinking in intimidation. Excuse me, but did you see where the weapon in this casing went? The girl with pink hair asked her. Did anyone suspicious walk in here? Did you see anyone take it and leave? Wait a sec. Manami... Sorry, I just lost my place. Excuse me. Wait a sec. No. Wait a sec. The gauntlet girl then reached behind Manami and pulled out the giant key, making everyone gasp. What are you doing with this? She asked with a frown. Just as Manami opened her mouth to respond, the key disappeared from the girl's hand and appeared back in Manami's. Everyone stared at Manami in disbelief. What the... Manami, how'd you do that? Kai asked. I don't know, Manami sputtered. It just... Never mind, Kai cut her off. Just give it back to them, please. Russell! Clara! The girl with the pink hair cried. We have a problem! And that is the end of chapter 1. Wait, Manami held up her hands. This makes just as much sense as it does to me as it does to you. She then went to offer the key to the girl. Look, please take it. I don't know what's going on, but I don't want this. Rose? Padina? They heard Russell call, and they could hear footsteps quickly approaching. What's going on? What kind of problem? What's going... He stopped the moment he saw the giant key in Manami's hands. What the... Hey! Put that back this instant, he yelled at her. That is a valuable antique you're holding. How did she get it anyway? The strawberry blonde, known as Clara, said from behind him. There's no cracks or holes in the glass, and the case is still bolted down, so she couldn't have lifted it either. Color me impressed. I swear this is one big misunderstanding, Kai insisted. Manami would never steal. He then looked back at her. Just give it back to them, okay? I'm trying, Minami snapped. But when I do, well, you saw. Let me try again. Minami offered the key to Rose, who cautiously reached to take it. But the moment it was completely out of Minami's hands, it then poofed into glittery sparkles and back into Minami's hand once again. Gah! Kai cried. Well, that's different. Russell went to put a hand on his chin before a smirk curled on his lips. I bet you think you're clever, huh? You got caught red-handed, and now you're just playing dumb, now that you've been caught. What? Minami gasped. I've done that before, little lady, and I gotta say, while it's cute at first, it normally doesn't end well in the long run. I will say, though, I'm quite curious of how you pulled it off. But I didn't... Hey! At that moment, Clara and Panina both restrained Minami each by taking one of her arms. They couldn't take the key from her, but they could keep her from moving. Wait, please don't hurt her, Kai pleaded. She didn't mean it. I think she's just as confused as the rest of us. Please, restrain me instead. Why do I have a feeling you'd actually like that? Panina asked, frowning in disgust. What boy his age wouldn't like being manhandled by a pair of gorgeous girls like us? Clara gave the boy a wink, which made him chuckle bashfully once again. Ugh, not the time, Clara, Panina groaned. Not the time either, Kai, Minami frowned at her best friend, who bowed his head apologetically. Okay, listen. She looked at Panina and Clara, who were still holding her arms behind her back tightly. I'm not resisting, because I see how this looks from your perspective. I get it. Minami went to take a deep breath. She then met eyes with Russell, her expression serious. Oh! Nakami June, thank you so much for the raid! Welcome, raiders! Can we get a shout out for Nakami June, please? Welcome, everybody. I'm actually in the middle of story time. I'm reading my alternate Kingdom Hearts reality, if you guys are interested. I know once we get that shout out, we will see a fun little clip, so let's check that out. Bro, that's sick. Oh. Woo! Sick dodge. Oh no. Ah! This is like the fight of the century. Super unfair that the other has a shield. Oh no! Oh. I'm sorry, did he just explode? Oh no! Oh, rippin' pepperoni! Oh no! Oh, well, you fought valiantly. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Good lord, what is happening in here? An unfair fight. But yeah, that was Nakami June. Make sure to check them out. But yeah, welcome raiders. I'm in the middle of story time, so if you guys want to grab your cozy blankets and snacks, I'll be here reading to y'all tonight. But without further ado, I will resume that. I'm gonna just start over this song because I may or may not have lost my place. I get it. Yes, okay. Minami went to take a deep breath. She then met eyes with Russell, her expression serious. But I'm not playing dumb, she insisted. If I were really trying to steal this thing, wouldn't I be trying to run with it? Quite the contrary, my dear. Oh my god. Clara chimed in. A true thief would try to win our trust and then make a sneaky escape. Takes a thief to know one. Clara gave her a wink, but Minami growled in frustration. Or what if you are putting some weird voodoo curses on these things to force them on innocent people and frame them for thievery? She barked, now getting impatient. What I want, more than anything at this moment, is to give you back this stupid thing so I could go back to the carnival with my friend. We didn't even want to go here in the first place. Panina shot Kai a glance. I beg to differ. Minami rolled her eyes, suppressing a growl. Well, Russell stepped forward. There's only one thing left to do now. Rose, if you please. Huh? Minami... I lost my place. Sorry. Huh? Minami looked to Rose as she nodded and stepped in front of Minami. Panina forcefully moved Minami's free hand up to Rose. Ouch! Minami yelled. Wait, what are you... She watched nervously as Rose gently took her hand. With the way she held it, she looked like she was going to read her palm. Rose closed her eyes and... Flash! Rose suddenly fell backwards. Thankfully, Russell managed to catch her before she landed on the ground. Whoa, he said as he caught her. Rose, are you alright? What happened? Rose! Panina cried, suddenly getting angry. She gripped Manami's arm tightly and twisted it behind her back once more. Ow! Manami! Kai cried. What did you do to her? Panina snarled. I don't know, Manami said through gritted teeth. I didn't do anything. I'm okay, Rose finally spoke, holding her head. She seemed dizzy. I'm not hurt, really, she said, much to everyone's relief. I saw a light, a glorious light, but it was also intense. I couldn't make anything out. What? Manami asked. What does that even mean? Kai stood there with his mouth hanging open, unable to think of what to do or say. Russell looked back up at Manami with a stern look on his face. Fletcher, call security! What? Manami cried. Wait, Kai protested. Can't we just... Clang! Manami groaned as she plopped down on her butt in a holding cell. Meanwhile, Kai was on the other side of the bars, on his knees, and groveling at the feet of the security guard. Please forgive Manami. She didn't mean it, honest, he pleaded. She literally can't get rid of it. It's cursed or something. Please let her go. I promise we'll never come here again. Even if you slap us with a lifetime ban, that'll be fine as long as you let Manami go. Be quiet, you little brat! The security guard roared at him. You're giving me a headache. Look, your friend's not going to jail or anything, but she needs to remain here until we sort this out. Now then. The security guard exited the room, leaving Kai and Manami alone. There was no hope of escaping either, since the guard left with the key. Wonderful, Manami groaned. Best carnival ever. I'm so sorry, Kai apologized. Manami let out a sigh. It's not your fault. Thanks for trying anyway. She pouted for a moment, staring at the key that was still in her hand and resting in her lap. She reflected on everything that happened, and tried to think of what to do next. Do me a favor and Moogle how a high schooler could get a lawyer to sue shady carnival vendors, she muttered. I don't know if you have much of a case, at least of what you can prove, Kai said sadly, crossing his arms. Well, I mean, I'm already in trouble, Manami shrugged. Maybe I could bust out and run from the law for the rest of my life. She looked up to see Kai looking at her with a petrified expression. I'm kidding, she quickly sputtered. You know I wouldn't do that. I know, but this is too much, Kai said. Everything was going fine before this happened. I don't get any of it. Just don't do something reckless, please. Two people who weren't from this world were wandering about the carnival. People stared at the boy in the red trench coat and the suit of armor accompanying him as they passed, most of them stopping to take pictures on their phones. Edward tried to ignore them, but he was getting irritated. Jeez. Of all days to look for someone, they had to be a big crowded event. At that moment, Ed realized that his brother had fallen behind. Huh? Al? Where'd you go? Smile for the camera, my angels! Ed looked back to see a woman taking pictures of her numerous children cluttered around his brother. Wait. I think there's been a mistake. I don't work here, Alphonse whined. Ed stepped in to stop the photo shoot, photobombing the last picture. Hey! He barked. My brother's not some sideshow attraction for you people to gawk at. Now if you'll excuse us, we're busy. With a glare, the mother left with all of her children. The smallest child gave Al a small wave before he turned to catch up with his family. You okay, Al? Ed asked his younger brother. None of those kids got any snot or anything gross in your armor, right? I don't think so, Al said, looking over himself and finding himself clean. You know, despite how distracting that was, it actually feels nice that those kids weren't afraid of me. Ed blinked before smiling at his brother and giving him a playful punch on his metal shoulder. Come on, who could possibly be scared of you? You're kindness in a can! Now come on, we're gonna have to start asking questions. He then approached one of the employees that were in charge of one of the line rides. Excuse me? Hey, have you seen something that looks like this? He went to hold up a picture, but the employee completely ignored it. Hey, no cutting in line, kid. Besides, you're too short for this ride anyway. Ed crumpled the photo in his hand, turning bright red from anger as a vein appeared on his forehead. Who are you calling a half-grown pint-sized chipified baby shrimp, bunk? Al tapped his older brother on the head with the blunt end of a giant lance that he carried. Ow! What the heck was that for? Sorry, brother, but there's no time for shenanigans, Al said. We got a mission to do, and we can't risk anything going wrong. The Colonel's counting on us. Al then looked to the carnival employee. Sorry about bothering you, mister. He then grabbed Ed by the back of his coat and pulled him away. Ed crossed his arms and kept glaring at the employee as he was dragged away. Meanwhile, Manami and Kai looked up to see someone coming into the room, and Manami frowned at the sight of Russell. Oh boy, you again, Manami spat, going to stand up. Sorry, I just had to make sure you didn't take any of the other antiques. My brother Fletcher and the rest of the girls are taking care of the place now. As for you, Russell put his hands in his pockets. I want to make a little proposition for you. And, if you accept, I promise we could sweep this whole thing under the rug. Really? Kai gasped. You won't press charges or anything? Oh, thank goodness. He looked to Minami, smiling. You hear that, Minami? We're gonna be okay. Minami wasn't smiling, though. In fact, she crossed her arms and raised a brow suspiciously. I'm not jumping to that conclusion just yet. Russell smirked once again, making Minami's skin crawl. You don't trust me? Minami frowned. If you're gonna call me a thief, then I'm gonna call you a scammer. Why should I trust you? Whoop. Ha! Not time for that song yet. Why should I trust you when I'm not getting that same respect? Because I can walk out right now and leave you here in that cell, Russell said simply. Minami heaved a sigh and shook her head. What do you want? Money? I'll have you know that I'm a broke teenager. I'd be willing to work it off, whatever it is, Kai offered. Oh yeah, Russell looked over to him. You. Kai, was it? I'm gonna have to ask you to wait outside this room for a minute. The terms of these negotiations need to be confidential. What? Kai raised a brow, glancing to Minami for a moment. Well, fine, but just for a minute. He left the room and stood right outside the door. He tried to listen in, but the noise from the outside carnival interfered with how much he could hear. Now then, as for my proposal, Russell spoke, once he was sure Kai was outside the room. It's quite simple, really. I want you to join my team. Huh? Minami blinked. I'll even let you be my partner, Russell said. It's clear that you're no ordinary girl, and I'm quite interested in how you managed to get that there antique. Skills like yours would definitely come in handy in our line of work. Minami stared at him for a long moment, not saying anything. Russell started to feel uncomfortable. What? Let me get this straight. Minami rubbed her forehead with her free hand. You accused me of stealing your sword, put me in a holding cell, and now you want me to recruit me onto your team. Yeah, Russell smiled brightly. Sounds good, right? Minami suddenly returned a matching smile to him. Oh yeah, sounds great! I'll join! I'd love to work for you! Really? No, you moron! Minami screamed. I see what's going on here now. You're luring in women to your stupid scammy shops and then put them in a position to work for you or be locked up. That's human trafficking. What? Russell gasped. Minami threw her hands up to wave as she mocked him. I'll even let you be my partner! Like I'm supposed to be honored about that? Minami continued, her nostrils flaring and her teeth clenched. You're not just a scammer, you're a pervert. More importantly, you're a predator. How dare you? Listen up, pretty boy, Minami cut him off. You can take your proposition and your antique. She went to hold the giant key through the bars and shove it. Russell stared back at Minami, rendered speechless by her reaction. After a long moment, he finally took a breath. Look, it's not like that, he said quietly. We honestly thought you were trying to pull a fast one on us. But after talking it over with the others, it's likely you weren't kidding. Minami simply glared at him, her silence allowing him to continue. I've just literally never seen that antique latch onto someone like it did to you. And the way Rose described what she saw within you, a glorious light, there's definitely something special about you. But he sighed and went to rub the back of his head. Maybe you just need to think about it. Outside, Kai suddenly heard some screaming. Huh? He looked over to the haunted house attraction nearby, noticing that people were running out of it in terror. Strange, Kai thought to himself. The haunted house is usually pretty corny. Maybe they've updated it? Just then, something emerged. A flea-like, shadowy creature that arose from the shadows. What? Kai's eyes widened as he saw another appear, followed by another, and another, and another. Suddenly, one of the monsters turned its head, looking directly at Kai with its glowing yellow eyes from the distance. Kai felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand when he met eyes with the creature, and he quickly ran back into the holding room. Minami and Russell looked up when they noticed Kai barreling in, and quickly slamming the door behind him. You again? Russell asked. Didn't I tell you to wait? Minami's brows furrowed at the sight of Kai, who looked absolutely terrified. He then held a finger to his lips. You know what's wrong with him? Russell asked, crossing his arms. Minami rolled her eyes at Russell before speaking in a whisper. He's telling you to shut up. Take a hint. She then looked to Kai and silently mouthed the words, What's going on? Before Kai could respond, they could hear the screams outside the room drawing closer. something was wrong. Excuse me. Suddenly, Minami saw a shadow crawl under the door. And Kai stumbled. That's gonna be loud. Nope, not loud. Cool. Minami saw a shadow crawl under the door, and Kai stumbled to the side as the shadow emerged from the floor and took form. Minami and Russell's eyes widened at the sight of the same shadowy monster that Kai saw outside. It got in! Kai cried. That thing still got in! What is that? Minami yelled, trying to open the door to her cell. No, it can't be, Russell gasped. Not again! Again? Kai looked at Russell. So you know what this thing is? Damn it, there's no time to explain. Russell gritted his teeth and pulled out what appeared to be a concealed rapier. He swiftly slashed the lock on Minami's cell, smashing it open. Kai, take that friend of yours and get moving, Russell yelled, shooting one last look at Minami. What about you? Minami asked, stepping out of the cell. I'll get back to you on my proposal on a better day. Wait, I don't get it. What's happening? Kai cried. What is that thing? The shadow then attacked Russell, but he managed to use his rapier to strike it in between the eyes. But then, more shadows began to materialize. Minami noticed that one of the shadows leapt right up at Kai, who was too scared to move. Kai! She acted before she thought, and managed to slash at the monster with the giant key and slice it right in half. As the monster dissipated, Minami and Kai just stared at each other in disbelief. Minami, you saved me. Yeah. Minami looked down to the key in her hand. I guess I did. Gah! Kai shook his head. We gotta get a move on! There's a window right there. Right, Minami nodded, and she went to open it. Thanks for releasing Minami, Mr. Russell. Kai looked back to the blonde boy, who was still fending off the shadows. I hope you're still not mad about the... His eyes widened at the sight of Russell as he skewered several why did I say kebab? Several of the shadows in a row with his rapier. Just as Minami looked back as well, they both saw one of the shadows ram into Russell's side, while another clawed his leg. Grah! Russell! Minami cried. The blonde gritted his teeth from the pain, but he endured it and continued to fight. He looked back at them while he got a break. There are more important things to worry about. Just go! I'll be fine. If I see you guys again, I'll explain everything I know. Kai nodded. Got it. We still need to bail, Minami. Minami was a little hesitant, excuse me, wanting to hear what he knew, but she quickly decided that he was right. They had to go. She was the first to climb out the window, Kai right behind her. After she climbed out, she noticed how different it was outside. The skies were dark with ominous swirling clouds. The winds were also whipping with strong gusts. It was like a hurricane had appeared out of nowhere and was hitting them. After Kai made it out the window, Minami grabbed him by the wrist. This way! She then pulled him, and they started to run, her hand still firmly gripped around his wrist. They saw the same monsters everywhere, attacking people and smashing stands that weren't already destroyed or carried away by the harsh winds. Excuse me, I'm gonna pause for just a hot second. I'm very thirsty. I'm gonna have a drink of water. Thanks. Oh, you got a lime icy bar. That sounds good, Juice Box. Okay, here we go. I am hydrated. Here we go. Excuse me while I just start this whole song over. Okay, she then pulled him and started to run, her hand still firmly gripped around his wrist. They saw the same monsters everywhere, attacking people and smashing stands that weren't already destroyed or carried away by the harsh winds. They ran even faster, avoiding the monsters as much as they could. However, it wasn't long until they found themselves surrounded by a group of shadows who cut off their escape. Minami had no choice but to fight them off. Oh no, oh no, oh no! Kai whined, his eyes wide. He looked behind them and all around, not seeing any openings. He swallowed nervously, once again, too scared to do anything. Mission prompt! Protect Kai! Despite the fact that there were so many shadows surrounding them, most of them seemed to be preoccupied with other things. Only a few of them were moving in at a time, in small groups. Minami could see a staircase that led up from the pier to the main road and city up ahead. She figured that she could try to clear a path. She looked down at the giant key in her hands, feeling a little nervous since she had no experience with sword fighting, but she pushed those feelings of doubt aside. She knew that she had to protect her best friend. Kai, stay close to me, she said, getting in a battle-ready stance. She then swung the key and took out a few shadows, making sure to constantly look around and make sure none of the Heartless were going near Kai. Kai was doing his best to keep up with her, but suddenly, one of the shadows crept out from a portal behind his feet and grabbed his ankle with its claw, holding him in place. No! He yelped, then tripped and landed first face into the ground. Kai! Minami quickly turned and plunged the key between the eyes of the shadow before it could fully crawl out of the portal, setting Kai free. Are you alright? She extended her hand to help him up, but right as she pulled him up, one of the shadows attacked her from behind and slashed her on the back. Gah! She winced in pain and swung the key behind her in an attempt to swat it away. The shadow hopped back like a flea, but Kai could only stand and watch as Manami held back another small group of shadows who were trying to attack. He couldn't do anything, except stand back while she was left to defend the two of them. The fact that she got hurt made him feel worse. His brows furrowed at the sight of the visible wound on the back of her shoulder. "Manami!" he cried. What have I done? She just got hurt protecting me, Kai thought. No! Damn it! Because of me, she's bleeding now. If I keep messing her up, if I keep tripping and falling behind, I might end up getting her killed. All the times Manami went as far as to get in fistfights with bullies after they left him on the ground crying. She once even got one of her teeth knocked out of her mouth. She assured him that it was okay, because it was a baby tooth, so she could put it under her pillow for the tooth fairy, but he still always felt terrible. Holding back his tears, he grabbed a large piece of broken lumber from one of the attractions and swung with it. He didn't land a successful hit, but he did make one of the shadows hop back. "Don't worry about me," he said to Manami, trying his best to be courageous, but his trembling could be seen and heard in his voice. Poor Kai. Is he what you kids call a soft boy, or is that some dirty Rule 34 term? Kai is definitely a soft boy. "Just focus on protecting yourself. I'll follow you, no matter what happens." Manami opened her mouth to respond, but she saw a shadow coming to attack and slashed it away. Excuse me. Despite her wound, she didn't seem to be aware that she was hurt or even bleeding, possibly because of the adrenaline. Instead, she was realizing that they were wasting time trying to fight these things. More and more were appearing, and it was seeming less and less likely that they would make it to the stairway that led to the main road. Manami took a few steps back until she bumped backs with Kai, not aware that she got some blood on his shirt too. She looked up, seeing the ice cream shop where they would normally get popsicles to split and share on the pier. It was the only structure that was sturdy enough to remain standing during this chaos. "Kai, we have to go up." She turned her head to look back at him. Kai was still breathing heavily, but he nodded. Just then, another shadow attacked, but he smacked it away with a piece of wood like a baseball bat. The top half shattered upon impact, but what remained could still be used to defend himself. "Just lead the way, Manami." Manami nodded and broke out into a run through the shadows, slashing any that threatened to claw at their legs. They surprisingly made it to the ice cream shop, stopping in front of a crate tall enough to help them climb up to the roof. "You first," Manami turned to Kai, and before he could protest, she started pushing him to climb up on the crate first. The shadow leapt up at them, but she managed to slash it in half like she did in the holding cell. "Keep going," she yelled to Kai. "I'm right behind you." There's like the longest pause at the end of this song. Anyway. "Damn it, it already happened!" Edward clapped his hands and transmuted several stone spikes that impaled a small group of Heartless. Al, meanwhile, slammed his lance into a different group of Heartless, knocking them away. The Elric brothers then started running through the cleared path. "Brother, what should we do?" Al asked. "There's more Heartless than we could have anticipated. We need to call for backup." "We don't have time to wait for backup," Ed gritted his teeth. "We were sent here to investigate and find signs of a Keyblade or Keyblade wielder. Remember, the mission didn't say anything about it getting this intense. Something stinks. Well, we better find them fast, otherwise who knows what could happen to them." Al slashed away some Heartless with his lance. "Right," Ed said, slashing at other Heartless with his automail blade. "And with this Heartless outbreak, they couldn't have gone far." Ed clapped his hands and transmuted a stone column beneath both himself and Al so they could rise into the sky and get a better look at the pier down below. He pulled out a pair of binoculars and looked around while Al kept the Heartless climbing the tower at bay. It wasn't long until Ed spotted something in the distance. Meanwhile, Kai did as Manami told him and climbed up the crate first, before offering his hand and pulling her up. They kept climbing until they were able to get to the top of the roof. They took a moment to catch their breaths. "Now what?" Kai asked Manami, who didn't have an answer. Suddenly, they noticed that the shadows below were starting to stack up on one another, like a totem pole, while simultaneously spinning. They watched in horror as the swarm of shadows grew bigger and bigger, now towering over the ice cream shop and spinning like a tornado. "Now what?" Manami thought to herself. "Think, Manami, think!" She gripped the giant key in her hands tightly and got in a battle-ready stance, but Kai could see her hands shaking. "What's going on?" he thought. "Manami, is she just as scared as I am? No, she can't be. She's the brave one out of the two of us. But if she's too scared to do anything, then what does that make me?" The spiral of shadows spun towards them and got closer, before it started to tear through the structure that they were standing on. It quickly tore the ice cream shop in two, making the halves fall in separate directions. "Kai! Manami!" In that instant, Kai and Manami fell in opposite directions, their hands extended towards one another, but being too far away to grab one another. Yes, Zen, this story is safe for work. But rather than land on the ground, Manami found herself being caught by someone much bigger than herself. Gotcha! Manami heard an echoey voice and looked up to see a giant suit of armor. Brother! The other one! I know! Manami looked up to see a blonde boy wearing a trench coat. Clap his hands, and he touched the ground. A cannon suddenly emerged from the ground under his hands, and it shot with a loud boom right at the Tower of the Shadows. The tower extended a tendril, made out of shadows bunched up together, and which acted as a living shield to take the hit. The tendril was blown apart, and the shadows dissipated. But a second tendril extended forth and slammed down on the boy's cannon. Grah! The two boys jumped back with Manami. Just then, Manami looked up and saw Kai in the distance, lying on the ground. He tried pushing himself up. However, a heavy piece of debris was not only weighing him down, but it seemed that he injured his ankle as well. Kai gritted his teeth in pain and looked up to see a tendril heading towards him. Kai! Manami screamed, trying to break out of the armor's grip, but he was much stronger than she was. Let me go! She screeched. He's right there! Let go! No! Oh, thank you for the whoa. I was really getting into this scene. Oh my goodness. No, I can't! The boy in armor protested. You'll get swept in too! Kai looked from the corner of his eye and saw two strangers with Manami. Who were they? And where did they come from? Just then, he was swept up by the tendril. The shadows were gripping and holding his body as they flung him into the air and pulled him into their main body. Kai tried reaching out for Manami, but he was sucked inside, crying out for her. Manami! Kai! Manami tried reaching as well, but with the armor holding her back, she couldn't reach him. The blonde boy who watched Kai, his eyes wide with horror, realizing in that moment that he had failed to save him. Zoe! Thank you so much for the raid! I'm gonna pause the music and welcome our raiders. Professor, if we could get a shout out for Zoe. Welcome raiders! I am currently reading a story. It's story time, so if you guys are interested, we got Froggo raid! Oh my goodness, thank you so much! Yes, let's check out a clip from Zoe, shall we? Is this Phasmophobia? Oh no. Or is this other spooky game? Is this Phasmophobia or the Ghost Hunter game? I forget. And clip it you did. Well, that was Zoe, everybody. Make sure to go check him out. That was a long time ago, yeah. That bot chooses excuse me, it chooses clips at random, so even your oldest, most embarrassing clips can be featured. But thank you again for rating Kai, Manami, Inuyasha, Kagome, Naruto, Sasuke, Plankton, Crabs. Okay. Alright, serious story reading time. Everybody get your comfy blankets and snacks ready because we are in this, boys. We are at, like, a climax moment. Manami! Kai! Manami tried reaching as well, but with the armor holding her back, she couldn't reach him. The blonde boy watched Kai, his eyes wide with horror. I'm sorry, did I just get another Welcome, raiders! We got a slime time raid! Oh my goodness, Professor! If I could have that shout out, thank you very much. Let's check out a clip from Rain, shall we? That's so incredible! Thank you! Hey, Twitch Guru, you want to work? Thank you again! Oh my goodness, welcome everybody. We're actually in the middle of story time. Alright, you know, oh, you misspelled it? Okay, okay. Oh, Crow, thank you for the hydrate, man. My voice is like... We are not just reading Kingdom Hearts fanfiction, Rain. We are reading my Kingdom Hearts fanfiction. But let's watch your clip first. Yeah, I was gonna say, that is old. That's PNG days there for Rain. Yes. Twitch Guru picks clips at random, including your oldest, most embarrassing clips. But yes, everyone please go check out Rain. I love them very much. Thanks again for the slimy raid. Now that we're all oh, I'm sorry. I have a drown. Okay, I guess I should drown first, huh? Alright, hold on. Let me finish my drink here. I'll turn on music. Oh no, I already have music on. I'm glad that was on the entire time. Alright, we'll just have nice music. Thank you for washing me up. Drown is my solution. Hold on, let me finish drowning. Hold on. Alright, I've drowned. I now have no more water. So actually, you know what? Real quick. I'm gonna grab some. Normally I wouldn't, but since thank you for the hype. But anyway, before I do get more water really quick, drown is my solution to having a cooldown on hydrate, because basically you can drown with a bunch of hydrates unless you put a cooldown. So, you couldn't hear the sound alert? What was that? Sound alert is such a butt. Hold on. I think I might have a solution, and I will redeem it. I have to put gain filters on everything. It's really cool. Alright, so now this might be incredibly loud. We'll find out. Here, where's that hype air horn? How's that? It could be better. How about here? How about here? How about that? It's so quiet. That's so silly. Okay. Now, let me go refill. You know what? No. I'm probably going to regret that decision, but I want to get back to reading, guys. Let's get back to reading. But yes, welcome everybody. I don't know why the sound alerts are so quiet lately. It's butts. Whatever. Let's just keep on keeping on, shall we? Ba-doo. No. What have I... He clenched his fists and looked down to his brother. He knew that they couldn't dwell on this, or they would be in danger too. Al, restrain her. We need to go, now. What? Manami shrieked. I'm sorry for what I'm about to do, but... The armor suddenly opened his chest plate and forced Manami inside before closing up. The two boys then started to run away from the tornado, the blonde leading the way. Kai saw this happen from inside the shadowy tornado, his eyes wide. No, they're kidnapping her! He struggled in the darkness. Wait! Stop! Kai was pulled into the tornado and enveloped in darkness before he could scream Manami's name one last time. Kai! Manami screamed, pounding and kicking on the inside of the suit of armor. Let me out! I said let me out! In that moment, all she could think about is how she failed to save Kai, and tears started streaming down her face. Kai! The Elric brothers finally arrived at their vessel and ran inside. Al, how soon can we launch? Huh? Manami thought. Launch? I just need 1 minute. Al manned the controls with one hand while holding down his helmet with the other. Ed stepped up to hold the helmet down so that his brother could work with both hands. Stop banging around in there! Then let me out! Manami roared, still pounding on the inside of the armor. We're taking off, the echoey voice announced, reverberating around Manami. Brother, get strapped in! No! Manami cried. Boom! The engine started, and the gummy ship lifted into the air. Manami looked out through the holes of the armor to see a sky view of her home being destroyed by the tornado of shadows. Everything and everyone. Whoosh! Everything suddenly lurched, and Manami fell backwards. The last thing she remembered was the back of her head slamming against the cold metal, and everything going black. Chapter 3! Manami began to stir out of unconsciousness, feeling woozy. It took her quite a bit to fully awaken, but she could hear voices as her blurry vision began to focus. And you were certain that her world was completely consumed in such a short amount of time? That's right. Me and Al were almost goners back there. Seriously, Colonel, you need to be on top of these things. We almost died because you left us in the dark. I assure you that what happened was not a result of poor research or lack of foresight. This whole thing was a completely abnormal occurrence. Still, I gotta hand it to you two. Not only did you get out of that place in one piece, but you even managed to find both the Keyblade and its wielder. Hey, I think she's waking up. Manami's eyes fluttered open, seeing that she was in a white room, like that of a doctor's office. She tilted her head to find herself laying down on a hospital bed, then noticed there were 4 people looking down at her. Minami immediately recognized the blonde boy in the suit of armor, but not the other 2, a man with jet black hair and the blonde woman, both wearing a blue uniform. The armor leaned down to peer over her. "Hello!" Minami just stared at him, her face twisting into a scowl that looked like a mixture of horror and fury. The armor shrunk back a little. "I don't think she's happy to see us." "Well, to be fair," the blonde boy crossed his arms, "we did kind of kidnap her." "You did what? Explain yourself, Full Metal." "We're sorry," the armor apologized. Not to Minami, but the adults in the blue uniforms. "We had to grab her and run before it was too late." "We didn't have time to explain things to her," the blonde boy added. "I see," the black-haired man said, then looked to Minami. "Don't worry, miss. You're safe here." He offered a soft, charming smile. "But I am going to have to ask for your cooperation." Minami stared at all of them for a long moment. She suddenly extended out her hand, but nothing happened. Everyone stared back at her, eyebrows raised in confusion. Minami looked to her open, empty hand. She shook it a few times, as if she was trying to get something to work. And suddenly, the giant key appeared in her hand. Before anyone could ask, Minami quickly swiped it, knocking the helmet off the suit of armor's shoulders and sending it flying across the room. Let's turn up the music just a bit. There we go. Gah! My head! Everyone watched as the helmet flew across the room, the armor and blonde boy even going to chase after it. They were all distracted, and, more importantly, the armor was now blocking the others from getting close to Minami. She quickly jumped out of bed and dashed to the door, throwing it open and bolting out, still with the giant key in her hand. "Slippery little..." Roy Mustang gritted his teeth, then looked to Ed. "Well, what are you waiting for, Full Metal? Wait, why do I have to..." "Fine," Ed groaned. "Come on, Al. Right behind you." Al followed his brother out the door, putting his helmet back on his shoulders. Minami ran blindly down the halls of Central Command, hoping to find an exit. She shoved by and knocked over several people, including a girl with glasses carrying a tall stack of books. Wah! Sheska fell over, along with her tall stack of books. She emerged from the pile, her glasses lopsided on her face. Further down the hall, Denny Brosh was tripped over and Maria Ross was helping him up. Kane Fury was bopped to the side and knocked into Heyman's Breda and Vata Fallman, who fell over with him. "Guess they found the new Keyblade wielder." Gene Havoc watched the girl continue running down the hall and grinning to himself. "I guess the Colonel's charm didn't work for once." "Out of the way!" Ed barked, zooming past Havoc with Al at his heels. They turned the corner to see Minami running down the hallway. They knew she was approaching a dead end, and Ed was planning to take advantage of the opportunity that was about to rise. He quickly clapped his hands and slammed them on the ground. Sparks quickly caught up with Minami, and just as she found herself at a dead end, Minami whipped around to backtrack, but before she could, a bunch of prison bars emerged from all around her, taking the form of a cage containing the Keyblade wielder. "No!" Minami raised the key to slam against the bars. "No, no, 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 no!" She slammed the key with each no, but with the wound on her back, her throbbing head, and her overall exhaustion, she quickly tired herself out. With one last weak swing at the bars, she dropped the key and fell to her knees, panting harshly. "Calm down, please!" The suit of armor whined as he and the blonde boy approached her makeshift prison. "We're not going to hurt you, honest. We just want to talk." "And don't think I'm going to let you out of there." The blonde frowned and crossed his arms. "You're going to hear us out first." Minami didn't respond, for she was still panting. And, before she could say anything, the 2 adults in blue uniforms had caught up to them. "I trust you're willing to cooperate now?" the man asked her. Minami glared at all of them and gritted her teeth. Tears were visible in her eyes, but she refused to let them spill. "What do you people want from me?" she snarled, still catching her breath. "Colonel, try to keep it short," Riza whispered in Roy's ear. "She's already overwhelmed and confused as it is." "Right." Roy nodded back to her, before looking back to Minami. "Well, to put it simply, we require your assistance. What happened to your world has and is still happening to numerous other worlds." Okay. "And beyond. You're one of the few who can help us stop it." Minami stared up at him, having no idea what to say. "We know that's a lot to take in, but trust us, you're very important," the armor added. "With you, we can help all kinds of people, on all kinds of worlds. We were sent to look for that Keyblade you're holding, which led us to you," the blonde said. "It just so happens that the Keyblade decided you were worthy to wield it," the man in uniform added. "Huh?" Minami didn't seem to understand. "Oh, yeah, that's right," the armor perked up. "That thing you have in your hands? You know, what you, used to knock off my head? It's a Keyblade! Keyblade? Minami thought to herself. What are these people on? Well, I didn't ask for this, Minami shook her head. There's been some kind of mistake. I'm not worthy of any of this crap. I'm just a kid. Minami reached to pick up the Keyblade, then reached to stick it through the bars and drop it on the other side at their feet. You can take this key whatever and do what you want. I just want to go home. There was a pause. Everyone on the outside of the bars exchanged glances. Finally, the black-haired man sighed. Miss, you can't go home right now. What? Minami's eyes widened, trembling softly. Why not? The man's expression saddened. Listen. He then went to kneel in front of her, so that he could be eye level with her. Right now, you're in another world, far from home. If you try to run away, you could get lost, maybe even hurt, he told her, his voice now gentle. We'll take care of you and explain everything, but we need you to remain calm. It's in your best interest. Minami stared at the man for a long moment, but she finally came to understand. Her shoulders slumped as she lowered her head and gave a nod. But keep them away from me, she said, shooting a glare to the blonde boy in suit of armor. Well, this just got more awkward, the blonde boy sighed before walking to the cell. Stand still, alright? Minami watched him clap his hands and touch the cage. There were flashes of light, and the bars around her sank back into the ground where they came from. There. Now please, do not run off again, he muttered, turning his head. Minami shot him a dirty look, but the man in uniform spoke before she could say anything. Shall you accompany us to my office? He asked. I can brief you on everything you need to know there. Minami whipped to turn and follow him, her hair smacking the blonde across the face as she turned. Ed stared back at her in shock for a moment, but then gritted his teeth. You little brother! Al put a hand on his shoulder. Just let it go. Minami was led to an office, where the man sat behind a desk and the woman in a matching uniform stood beside him. Minami sat down on a couch in front of his desk, across from the strange boys. After the woman in uniform served them all tea and biscuits, the man spoke from behind his desk. I suppose that, before we begin, an introduction is in order. I am Colonel Roy Mustang. He then gestured to the woman who returned to his side. This here is my lieutenant, Riza Hawkeye. The two sitting across from you are the Full Metal Alchemist Edward Elric and his brother Alphonse Elric. Pleased to meet you. Alphonse began to speak, but then was immediately stopped at the sight of Minami shooting him a death glare. After that, he could only shriek in intimidation. Now that we've introduced each other, and now that we've introduced ourselves, may we have the pleasure of knowing the name of our Keyblade wielder? Roy Mustang asked. My Travis Willingham impression is way off. Okay. Minami slowly looked over to him. My name is Minami. Mustang gave a nod. Alright, Minami. He went to stand and walk around his desk. You're currently stationed in Central Command in our world of Amestris. We are this world's leading military power, whose current mission is to fend off and end the threat of the creatures known as Heartless. Though, in order to do this, we had to seek out the one who wielded the Keyblade. Minami could feel her head already throbbing again. With a sigh, she went to hold her forehead with her free hand. I'm not going too fast, am I? Mustang asked. No, but Minami lifted her head from her palm so that she could gesture down to the Keyblade in her lap. I don't understand why me, of all people, was chosen. Despite that Mustang's eyes narrowed a little, she continued. Like, there's not a backup person for any of this? Because I can tell you right now, I can barely fend off those monsters before. These two as my witnesses, she said, gesturing to the boy sitting across from her. What makes you think that I can? Because despite what you or any of us think, that key remains in your hand, Mustang said, giving her a somber look. If you weren't worthy, you wouldn't be holding it. It's as simple as that. Minami couldn't find any words to say, so she just turned her head to look down at her lap, her hand gripping the handle of the Keyblade tightly. The Keyblade contains many hidden powers that you merely haven't tapped into yet. Powers that come from one's heart, Mustang explained. It's the perfect weapon for not only fighting the Heartless, but sealing them away so that they don't return. He paused for a moment so that he could sip his own tea. It's a power that many of us lack, and even the most powerful magic, alchemy, or technology that we have at our disposal can't get the job done. Having a Keyblade wielder like you is crucial to finally ridding these worlds of the Heartless, once and for all. It's possible that you might even be able to restore the worlds that were completely enveloped in darkness, including your world. Minami's eyes widened a little when he said that, but she kept her eyes on the Keyblade in her lap. And what about the people in those worlds? She asked quietly, thinking of her mother and Kai. We don't know for certain, Mustang crossed his arms, but I'd say there's a good chance they would be restored along with their world. Minami opened her mouth to say something, but suddenly the doors to the office slammed open, making her jump. She looked up to see someone entering the room, followed by two men in black suits and sunglasses. The Elric brothers shot up from the couch they sat on, raising their hands in a salute. Minami raised a brow and looked over to see Mustang and Hawkeye, already standing and saluting as well, before she looked back at the man who had just entered the room. Were those men accompanying him his bodyguards? This guy had to be important. Afternoon, Colonel Mustang. Apologies for the unexpected entrance, but I've heard reports of a new Keyblade wielder discovered. The man spoke and turned his head to look down at Minami. He had an eye patch over one of his eyes. I assume this is her right here? Minami felt herself shrinking in intimidation. Führer King Bradley, sir, Mustang spoke, making the man look to him. We can safely confirm that yes, we have successfully located a Keyblade wielder. Her name is Minami, Hawkeye added. Her world was consumed, but thanks to the efforts of the Elric brothers, she was safely transported back to Central Command. Ah, the man known as King Bradley hummed, his smile fading a little. I see. He looked back down to Minami. Well, my eye doesn't deceive me. That's definitely a Keyblade you have there, he said, gesturing to the weapon in her lap. Oh, pardon me. I forget you're not from around here. I am the Führer, the commander-in-chief of the state military you find yourself in, but you can call me King Bradley. Minami awkwardly stood up and bowed her head politely. Nice to meet you, sir. Oh, no need to be so formal, Bradley laughed. You're not part of the military. At least, not yet, anyway. Huh? Minami thought, feeling the color drain from her face. Yet? She silently watched as the Elric brothers moved away from their couch to allow the Führer to sit down. He poured himself a cup of tea before he spoke again. I assume Mustang already briefed you on the situation, yes? Yes, but hold on. Minami began to sweat. What do you mean by saying I'm not a part of your military yet? We must enlist you, of course, Bradley said simply before taking a sip of his tea. Our mission has been to find Keyblade wielders to enlist in our military in order to combat the threat of the Heartless. I mean, Minami swallowed thickly, I don't have to be enlisted in order to help out, right? On the contrary, Bradley lowered his cup of tea to its saucer. You do. You see, Miss Minami, you may be the first Keyblade wielder we've found in quite some time, but you're not the first, period. So, where are the others? Minami asked, blinking. Because I was just telling Mustang that there are currently no others that we've been able to locate, Bradley cut her off, his visible eye narrowing. Minami felt a lump in her throat as she watched him set his teacup and saucer down on the table. You see, Minami, Bradley folded his hands in his lap. Due to past mistakes, we have a policy on enlisting Keyblade wielders like you in our military, so that we can keep an eye on you. A Keyblade can close doors that let Heartless flood in, but they can also open even more doors, if its wielder so chooses. We take it upon ourselves to monitor any Keyblade wielder we can find to make sure they don't do the latter. All the while, we offer our assistance, particularly protection and resources, to assist in closing these doors. Minami swallowed thickly. With all due respect, this is a strange offer. Bradley raised a brow at her, his silence allowing her to continue. Considering that, well, not only am I not from your world, Minami bit her lip, but also I'm just a kid. Ho ho ho! Bradley let out a laugh. Do you really think age is a factor? He gestured to the Elric brothers. Lieutenant Hawkeye, how old are these two boys again? Edward Elric is 15 years old, sir, Hawkeye answered. His brother Alphonse is 14. To be technical, Edward Elric was made an official state alchemist when he was 12, while Alphonse was made into an honorary knight at age 11. Minami blinked, looking over to the brothers. The one known as Ed crossed his arms and turned his head. As you can see, these boys were even younger than you when they joined the military, Bradley said. They joined out of their own free will as well. They merely needed resources that the military could provide, and had talents that they could offer in return. I'd say you're in the same boat, given your current situation, but joining us might be even more within your interests. Huh? Minami blinked, feeling nervous when a dark demeanor washed over Bradley's face. I assume Mustang told you what would happen if you chose to refuse working with us. No, he didn't, Minami admitted, feeling the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Simple, really, Bradley nodded. You'll become an enemy of the state. Minami couldn't help but gasp. As I said, that keyblade you hold is very powerful. It would be bad if it fell into the wrong hands. Loud music is loud. Or rather, if those wrong hands were yours. Letting a rogue keyblade wielder run around could bring ruin to countless worlds. Therefore, it is not something that I will allow. Minami's eyes went wide in horror as the revelation sunk in. I don't have a choice. She looked down to her feet, her shoulders trembling slightly. I guess that makes sense, she managed to croak out. Al looked up and saw, in that moment, that Minami looked utterly terrified. Excuse me, Führer, sir? Everyone except Minami looked up to Al, who was the one who broke the silence. With all due respect, all of this is a lot for her to take in, he said softly. She just lost her home and everyone she's ever cared about. She's on a new, unfamiliar world that's different from her own, and filled with people she doesn't know. She's being given a responsibility bigger than anything she could imagine. That's right, Ed spoke up as well. Al and I had time to mentally prepare ourselves before we joined the state. Minami just got here. Full metal, Roy hissed through his gritted teeth, but Bradley chuckled and held up a hand. That's quite all right, Bradley chuckled. Continue. Please, sir. Give Minami time to think before she makes her choice, Al pleaded. Minami looked up to Al, honestly surprised. These two were going as far as speaking up to their Führer for her sake. It actually touched her. We know things are urgent, and we're aware of the risks, so Brother and I will look after her in the meantime. Oh? Bradley raised a brow. What do you expect if she escapes from you two? What do you expect to do if she escapes from you two? Then, we'll take full responsibility, Ed answered coolly. Minami blinked, now even more in surprise. These two were willing to take responsibility for her? Full responsibility for someone you just met, Interesting. The Führer suddenly let out an amused chuckle. Well, I trust you boys are good judges of character. Bradley then stood up and clapped the suit of armor on the shoulder. You're right, Alphonse. He then looked back to Minami. I will give you 2 days to think about it. Minami slowly nodded. Thank you. I trust you will make the right choice in the end, Bradley nodded. In the meantime, you can relax. Perhaps the Elric brothers can give you a tour of Central City while you're here. As Führer King Bradley said his farewells, everyone except Minami saluted him as he exited the room. After the door closed, everyone was silent, only hearing the footsteps get further and further away down the hall. Mustang crossed his arms. Well, color me impressed. I sometimes forget you boys are more mature than I thought. I have my reasons, Ed said quietly. It's the least we can do, all things considered, Al nodded in agreement. Neither of them couldn't stop thinking about that boy on Minami's home world, how they failed to save him, Minami crying out for him, on top of having to basically kidnap her and force her to join a foreign military. They knew that there was a need for a Keyblade wielder to save the universe, but seeing her be ripped away from something she knew and loved, to be so scared and confused, and because they brought her here, it made both of them feel sour inside. Well, this begs the question of where Minami will be staying then, Lieutenant Hawkeye broke the silence. And wherever she goes, the Elrics go. Bang! The doors burst open once again, making Minami jump almost a foot high and let out a shriek. Ah! Was it Bradley again? A gunshot? She looked over to see that it was neither, but a man with dark green hair and glasses wearing a goofy grin. Yo, Roy! He trotted in the room, letting the doors fall shut behind him. I heard you guys finally found the Keyblade wielder, so I thought I'd meet her for myself. I also heard she was quite the handful. Hello, Hughes, Mustang sighed. Yes, we have indeed found the... Roy stopped mid-sentence once he saw that the spectacled man had already approached Minami and was shaking her hand so hard that he was jostling her whole body. Minami, on the other hand, was still pale and looking like a ghost. Hello there! So you're the new Keyblade wielder, am I right? The man grinned widely. I'm Officer Maze Hughes. Welcome to Amestris. Since you're new here, that means you haven't seen pictures of my darling little Alicia yet. Uh-huh. Minami watched Hughes with a bewildered expression as he pulled out a photo wallet and opened it to show numerous pictures of who she assumed was his daughter. Isn't she the cutest thing ever? Minami, despite that she was incredibly overwhelmed, still managed to put on a weak smile. Yeah, she's definitely, cute. I know! Hughes squealed. She's just the sweetest. I think you're coming in a little strong there, Hughes. Ed sighed heavily, crossing his arms. Sorry, I'm just glad that someone can appreciate her sweetness, opposed to a certain grouch. Hughes turned away to shoot a pouty look to Mustang, who simply rolled his eyes. Hawkeye cleared her throat. Did you have anything to report, Officer Hughes? Not really, Hughes replied, putting his hands on his hips. But hey, it looks like that search was a success, huh? He then leaned in to whisper so that only Mustang could hear. You know, considering you sent the Elrics on that mission to begin with, there's a chance you could be getting yourself quite the promotion in the near future. Good call, Roy. We'll see about that, Roy whispered back. Then spoke again in a normal volume. Hi, Aniguma. Hi, I love you too. First things first, we need to make arrangements for Minami's lodging. She needs time to rest. The Keyblade wielder needs a place to stay? Hughes blinked, then smiled widely. Why not my house? Huh? Minami flinched, then went to hold her hands up. No! Everyone looked back at her, and she immediately regretted her outburst. Let's just restart this song, shall we? I mean, I couldn't, she corrected herself. Wouldn't a hotel be more, appropriate? She squeaked. Nonsense! It would be no trouble at all, Hughes insisted. Besides, I'm pretty sure whatever money you brought from your world doesn't have any value in this one. Huh. Good point. Minami felt another layer of sadness wash over her. I'm homeless and broke, she thought. Hold on, Ed spoke up. Wherever she goes, we go. We have to watch over her, you know. In other words, if you do allow her to take shelter in your home, you'll be just as responsible for her as the Elrics while she's under your roof, Hawkeye added. Fine by me, Hughes laughed. Hey, why don't you boys take her out on the town for a bit? You know where my house is. I have a few things I need to discuss with the Colonel here, so I'll meet you there for dinner. All right, if you say so. Ed went to walk to the door. You need any help? Al offered a hand to help Minami up from the couch, but she stood up without taking his hand. She was still avoiding eye contact. I think fresh air will help, Al said, trying not to take offense. Maybe we could get you a bite to eat, too. I'm starving, Ed said simply, opening the door and holding it open as he took a step out. Minami slowly nodded and followed the Elric brothers out the door. Excuse me. Hughes, Hawkeye, and Mustang watched the door for a few moments after it closed. When he was sure they were gone, Hughes turned to talk to Mustang once more. So, he started. Looks like the intel I gave you was gold after all. Just didn't think they'd find the wielder along with the Keyblade itself. Guess that was pretty serendipitous, huh? Indeed. Mustang sighed and sat in his chair. But I'm still concerned about how quickly that world was devoured by the darkness. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen prior. Either this was all pre-planned, or they have a new method of amassing Heartless, or... Someone tried opening it again, sir? Hawkeye finished for him. Let's hope not. Alright, so that was chapter 3! I think that's all I'm gonna do for today. Reading takes a lot out of you. So, on that note, let me turn my music back. Oh, my music never stopped. Cool. I keep forgetting I have music to turn on and off. But yeah, so that was Kingdom Hearts! Well, not all of it. 3 chapters of it. So I'm thinking I'm going to be juggling Perler Beating. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, Juicebox and I are certainly here to answer. Minami is homeless and broke like a lost little kitten. Al shook her inside your armor for another few hours. No! Needless to say, Minami did not like being in his armor. So yeah, unfortunately there were no Kai perspective scenes today. I'm pretty sure there will be next time though. I'll answer the most obvious question. Yes, Kai is single. Line starts over there. Oh my god. How hard was it to not do the Kai parts before? It was a pain. Actually, my music's too loud. There we go. It was awkward. And I'll point it out for the scene, but there was a scene where they, like, almost, you know, like, interact. Minami's not aware of it, but Kai, long story short, Kai's watching her from the distance. So the fact that I had to cut out Kai's part, but when I read the story before, I didn't read too far into it, so it's not, like, you know, like, I didn't have to do that much adjusting. I do know that at least one Kai scene was cut with the last reading that we'll touch on in this one. But yeah, there was one scene where both of their experiences were, like, integrated. So I had to, like, rewrite it in a way that, like, didn't spoil that Kai was there for quote-unquote Kingdom Hearts Manami as she was reading the story, but like, it was weird. So he was like Riku, but more actively watching. In that one scene, because you know the scene where like Maleficent was hanging out with Riku and they were watching Sora, Donald, and Goofy from inside like the abandoned house and whatever, and she's like, oh yeah, he totally forgot about you and all that. Like, it's similar to that. That's what I can compare that scene to. I wouldn't say Kai was actively watching Manami as much as Riku was watching Sora. Like, I would say they probably saw each other the same amount of times, and for reasons I can't say, in some cases, Kai saw her even less. So, we'll get to that point. I made you run him off the hook. Yes, Kai is, and that is something I will establish. Kai is the Riku role in this story. We don't have a trio of friends, so in some cases, you know, Kai is more like Riku. We don't have really a Kairi, with this story. Yeah, like a combination Riku Kairi, but it's more like 90% Riku and 10% Kairi in the sense of things that I can't go into. But, they're both Kairi. Yeah, you know, that's actually an even better way to put it. Manami and Kai are kind of Kairi in their own way. Even Al a little bit. Al, actually, you know what? I'll just say that much. Al is probably the Kairi. In terms of long-term roles. Some like, Kairi has been divvied up to everybody. Between Kai and Al, I think that's where Kairi lies in our story. But we'll get to that point in the future. But yeah, I think that's gonna be the end for today. So, as much as I would love to keep streaming, because I know it's a very short stream, but my voice is shot. Also, I'm like huge. Why am I so big? Hello? 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 Hello, everybody? Yeah! Huge Nami, baby! But yeah, so I'm thinking I'm gonna alternate every Monday. But that is something I would like to talk about. We are nearing the time where my streams are going to... Excuse me while I get rid of my book here. Let me just... I gotta put my book away. Okay. So, my schedule is going to be changing here in the coming weeks. I'll just be up front with it. Rip in peace book. Rippin' pepperoni book. No, it's okay. It'll come back. But okay. So my schedule is going to be changing here at the end of the month. As of August 30th, I'm honestly going to be taking August 30th off because that'll be my first day back on the workforce. So after that, though, I would still like to stream on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and maybe Saturday. I've been kind of digging Saturdays, but with this new job, I won't be finished working until 9. So I'm gonna feel around a little bit. That's why I'm gonna take Monday off, Monday the 30th, in particular, because I'm gonna see if I get off of work right at 9 and can have time to eat and start a stream at 9:30, or if I will start at 10 instead. So I will either be going from 9:30 to midnight or 10 to midnight. After August 30th. So with that in mind, I'm going to be doing a literal crap ton of collabs until then. I have been contacting so many friends for collabs. I can tell you that, what's today, Monday? I'm going to be streaming with Nani, I believe. Hold on, I'm going to check my schedule. I don't want to say anything wrong. I don't want to say anything wrong. But I'm pretty sure I'm streaming with Nani on this Wednesday. Yes. This Wednesday, I will be streaming with Nani. This Friday, I will be streaming with T in the early afternoon. And maybe even somebody that evening as well. Then Saturday in the afternoon, I'm going to be streaming with Kynes. And then that evening, I'm going to be streaming with Usagi back to Resident Evil 4. So, no, I have not contacted Yuno yet. I will be contacting Yuno though. Maybe Yuno could take my Friday night. But like, legit, hold on, you know what? I'm gonna literally pull up, because I don't have anything secret here. I know T has me as a secret on her stream, but you know what? That's okay. The thing with the afternoon stream with T, I'm gonna spoil it right now. It's gonna be Final Fantasy XIV, and I know a lot of you are gonna be excited about that. But I don't have a freaking clue if I'm gonna be able to stream that, so I might just be guesting on T stream. I will let you all know as soon as I get the game installed. It's a 7-hour download, so I have to dedicate my whole day to downloading it tomorrow. But yeah, Manami Manami gonna play some Final Fantasy 14. So let me go back to, I'll just go back to point of view really quick. I just want to show you guys this ridiculous schedule I have right here. Okay. It's weird. Hold on. I have to fix. Then we're gonna squeeze. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I'll do this. There we go. Okay. So here's what my schedule's looking like. So tentatively, I'm on the Siren server. I think I'm gonna be on a different server to play with T. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I heard there were teleporty things happening though, so maybe we can play in the future. I couldn't even tell you what server I'm going to be in. Uwu versus Owo, who wins? I say Owo because they have their big eyes open, but Uwu is used to fighting blind. So yeah, Uwu. Uwu definitely wins. But anyway, okay, so here's my schedule. We just did fan fiction. Yay, I can mark this past. Done. So yeah, I have the literal last week here before the 30th totally open, like, for the most part. Like, just, like, all these afternoon slots are open. This afternoon slot is open. These night slots are open. Like, how many streams would that be? Let's include this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going ham, friendos. I'm going ham. So, nobody I know plays in my... Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, when it comes, though, I will super look forward to hanging out. Mahami. Yeah, more like work Nami. But I want to get as many collabs as I can before I go back to work. Because with some people, like, especially, like, people in other time zones, like... You know, Pacific actually works for me because, like, 9, 10 o'clock is, like, what... 7 for them, so like that's fine. But I'm thinking people like Sageki and Kynes, who are like on the other side of the world, I might not be able to do another collab with them, so, or at least anytime soon. So yeah, I'm going a little ham, I'm going a little hard, but it's gonna be worth it because I really... Do I even have music here right now? I sure don't. Or no, I do. Okay, good. I was like, I thought I was just doing this in silence. But yeah, so yeah, sorry, I thought I had something else to say along that, but I don't think I do. I can't, I'm like trying to fit my whole schedule so you can see all of it. Yeah, there we go. That's good. So yeah, this is, the things with asterisks are tentative. But yeah, as you can see, I still have the fan fiction and the perler scheduled up. I'm thinking if I don't get collabs for these times, I'll just do my own personal stuff, things that I would like to do. But, you know, I'm still going to be streaming. I'm not so worried about streaming yet. My training schedule is very nice, you know, 12 to 9. That's not so bad. It's when I graduate training that, yeah, Manami's probably going to be streaming in the morning. Or maybe early afternoon. I don't want to say morning, but yeah, I'm going to go from 12 to 9 to 2 to 11. So that's going to suck. I'm going to work to get that schedule changed ASAP because I do not look forward to working until 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, what am I going to do with Ryu? Wouldn't you like to know? You got to come and find out. Yeah, I know you would anyway. But yeah, also a heads up to everybody, due to having copyrighted music on today's stream, this VOD's probably going to be deleted. But in the future, it'll be uploaded and archived to YouTube. So don't fret. But yeah, I think that's all I have. So let's raid. You know what? I'm gonna raid Juju. I'ma raid Juju. It's Juju time. What's he playing? Oh my god, he's playing Final Fantasy XIV. What a perfect segue, right? Talk about Final Fantasy XIV. We're gonna raid someone playing Final Fantasy XIV. It all just works out in the end. So, thank you guys for hanging out. Again, I will be back in 2 weeks to continue this story, but next Monday I will be back to purling. I'm just gonna make productive Mondays a thing where I'm gonna either make something or I'm gonna read y'all something that I made that Juicebox and I worked for over 10 years to make. So, creative, productive Monday streams are still gonna be a thing, just a little later, but we'll worry about that when the time comes. I hope you guys will look forward to these streams coming up. And yeah, let Jusagi know that he's been hit by a Manami tsunami. If you have the channel points, wash away the pain. I know it's 1,000 channel points, but I'll probably do it. That'll be my physical Manami tsunami. But of course, if you have those subs, throw those emotes too. But yeah, thanks for coming. I love ya. And according to my schedule, I will see you guys on Wednesday with Nani at 8 p.m. And of course, if that changes, make sure to join the Discord and follow me on Twitter. That's where any announcements will be announced first. So yeah, love you guys. Let Usagi know I got hit, he get hit by a Manami tsunami. Let's go!